First on the agenda, Isaac Wiltgen, Road Matters. Go ahead, Isaac.
First things, we got 2 quotes for the removal of the 8 trees up in Hoggenhummel. Liability issue, I think you guys know about that. Total Tree Care at a quote of $2,000 and Stevenson Tree Care at a quote of $1,650. That's something
You can go with a little bit.
Okay. Next thing, we got CMP quotes on Friday. Just want to pass it down. Surprisingly, prices actually went down a little bit from last year. And metal culverts was low bidder, which normally we have below.
Listen, they probably should make a bid to,
Make a motion.
make a motion to accept the quote.
I move to approve the low quote on the Illinois piping.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the culvert. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
The next thing, Lee got a phone call from Chuck Fritzen early last week. Usually never good when they call. Bridge 5 on Centennial Road. They ran through the calculations. They want us to drop that to 18 ton. I talked to Chuck Fritzen on Thursday with my idea of rehabbing it temporarily until we get the bridge constructed. Right now we got it in 2024 construction plan. It's already designed, ready to go. But Chuck Fritzen was going to run through the calculations and see if that repair would get the weight limit off, or temporary get the weight limit off until we can construct the bridge. But for right now, it's posted at 18 tons. As soon as we hear back from them, we'll probably get out there, get that done. Hopefully, we'll get it, get that fixed before planning season.
What kind of plans do you have for it? Just,
As far as like the construction of it.
well, it's a rehab.
Oh, rehab, I just kind of told him my idea in my head. He was gonna, it'll just be us rehabbing it. So we got, basically what we're gonna do was cut the bad, it's got timber piling, cut the bad rotten chunk of piling out. Use the H-pile, measure that gap in between there, slide the H-pile in there and lag it into the existing piling. He was also gonna come up with some other ideas too, possibly for us, but it cheap fix. It's just gonna be temporary until we can construct that bridge.
Maybe a day or 2 fix.
Yeah, it'll a week at the most. I think it'd be 2 days at the guys could get it done. I think we could keep the bridge open probably for the most part. Another bridge he called on was Bridge 362 on Cattle Creek Road. That bridge is 22 tons and we had to drop it to 18 tons. Not a huge deal on that one, but
Not a lot of traffic.
yeah, not a lot of traffic on that. Cattle Creek Road, if you know where Daly's Bridge is that we did a few years ago, it's to the west of that, a couple miles. Yeah, so not good news, I guess, but that's what we got to deal with. That one currently is not, no. I mean, we've talked about it before, but it's not currently in the 5-year plan or nothing. So yeah, that's the news on that. Pre-con meetings, we have our pre-con meetings for Bridge 26, 237, and 373 with Brennan Construction on Wednesday. We'll get a timeline from them, and it sounds like, talking to Brennan on the phone, it sounds like they want to get up to Bridge 237 with one of their crews right away in the spring, so, we'll have a better timeline, like I said, on Wednesday.
Yeah, on the one we're gonna sell it to Walmart.
Yep.
They have a list of questions too.
Yep, and Lee got that, and I think he responded to them, I believe, I think he sent it to them.
Wade stopped in and talked to me about it, and then he even made a thought, he wouldn't mind sitting in on the pre-construction meeting on that.
For that one, yeah, we can, for sure include him on that, yeah. I talked to K Construction, because K is a little bit, I talked to them on the phone. He's still got some work for us to do, he's still got the Spillville Mill, box culvert extension in the spring that he's gotta do, and then he's got a couple of other bridges in other counties that he's gotta do. So it sounded like he won't get out to that bridge till July or later.
Okay.
But yeah, we can include Dwayne on the pre-con meeting, and I believe Lee sent that, responded to his letter, so.
Yeah, he's still a little nervous on this buying a bridge for $1 and being responsible for it.
Yeah, but,
It's a little hard. We all speak up a little bit more.
I think they can do that, and they can see it, you just can see it.
I guess, in our office right now, we're designing bridge 307 and 299. I'm working on 307, Matt is working on 299. Mike Weiss is working on W14. He's got pretty much everything outside of the city of Spillville is ready to go. We're waiting for the weather and the snow to melt a little bit. We gotta get, Mike Schimmick will go out there shortly here and get some survey shots in the city of Spillville. So that way we can work on sidewalks and sidewalk ramps and curb and gutter and stuff like that.
On that W14, are we gonna add any more to any of the shoulder?
Right now,
Some of those areas, it's.
no, yeah, I agree 100%.
We do a little ditch cleaning.
Yep, that's what I told the guys. I told Bruce down there, I said, anytime we're ditch cleaning in the area, I said, find a spot where, we don't have any shoulders or nothing, just
So I see
haul it
that
out
issue
there.
up on Bluffton Blacktop where
Do we?
it's busting off.
Right north of Sutton's there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's on
another
the inside
spot
of the
that
white
we,
line too, it's busting.
really, yeah, we need to get out there.
No.
Fix that.
Do you think most of the shoulders are over on the piece between Fort and Stouffville?
A lot of them, yes. Just north of Spillville, there's some areas too that need it. Yep. When we extend that box culvert by the mill, I mean, we're gonna haul in a lot of fill for that, so that'll help there, just in that area.
That's probably some of the worst on that stretch.
Yes. Yep. No, it is an issue. Just the cost to do everything.
I know, yeah, added expense to the whole project.
What bridges are those at 307 and 299, where are they located?
307 is on 230th Street. We had to close that one this fall. It's in between Spillville and Ridgeway. About 2 miles off of west of W14.
Oh, yeah, that, across the Turkey.
Yep, across the Turkey River.
Is that the one you're redesigning?
Yep.
Here, we marks back in there.
Bridge 299 is north of Ridgeway by Muller's, in that area. I can't think of the road right now. In between Madison Road and Ridgeway.
Oh, yeah, that's,
It's a little, I guess 50 footer now, maybe. It's gonna be
that's been an issue for.
yeah, it's been low tonnage for a while. Yeah. Mike Weiss is also designing or getting ready for our guys to do Frankville Road culverts this year with our bridge crew. There's a total 11 concrete pipe He has estimated at $83,000 just for the pipe, not the patching. Labor will be our guys, obviously.
Sprinkles at 25.
20, 25, I believe, yeah.
That'll just be an overlayment.
Yeah, we're debating between just a straight up overlay or cold in place with the overlay on top of that. Kind of going back and forth there, but I think right now it'll be asphalt. We're also debating between concrete, but I think we're kind of in the mindset of asphalt. Yep. Jeff wanted me to let you guys know that Ziegler did install that new circle on the motor grader, one that we're gonna demo. So that is installed. Not that I know of, anyway.
Which shop is that?
I guess I don't even know, to be honest with you. Yeah, I guess that's about all I have. Any other questions or?
No. Is that 299, is that gonna be a red car bridge?
No, that'll be a concrete slab bridge. A little bit of grading in there, not much. Cost much to do that. It's pretty flat, straight, so.
That'd be off, I think, the second gravel road. If you're going towards Crystal, the second gravel road to the right. I think
Yep.
it's the second
Yep.
one.
So it's
Yeah,
not,
just
it's
down
not
there.
like that 220 footer that you're,
Yeah, that, bridge 307 is a 201 foot.
201, and then
Yeah.
201.
Right now on that Bridge 307, it overtops the road every other year, I would say. So we're gonna raise the road up a little bit, so hopefully it holds for a 50-year flood design. It does not overtop the road for that.
How much you gonna change the elevation for that?
At the most 4 foot in the low spot, but probably on average 2 to 3 feet probably. But for quite a ways, I mean, there's 1,200 feet of grading probably, so pretty good amount.
Especially back to the east is the.
Yep, to the east,
East is
going
the
to,
east.
basically going to his driveway east, and then to the west, we're going a little bit past, actually, it's our county worker, Jed Rodentz, that's where he lives, so a little ways past his
His
driveway.
driveway.
Yep. So.
Anybody have anything else for Isaac?
No.
Nothing new on the old abandoned bridge at Ford, is there?
No, not that I know, not that I've heard.
Nobody's jumping up to buy it.
Yeah, I wish somebody would, but
Yeah.
no, as far as I know, nothing new on that. There was talk about somebody possibly buying the land around the bridge, so then they would become owner, we just vacate. I guess I haven't talked to Lee if he's heard anything more on that, but, yeah, as far as I know, nothing's happening with that.
Did we recover in the road department the old bridge decal up on the top that had the date on it? Do you know?
That one,
One was apparently stolen,
yeah, it seems to happen with those bridges.
and I think then the other one is now not up there, so I was questioning the other day whether or not we
I
were the
thought
ones that
you
took
said they
it.
had one in the shop, or they had.
We do have, I think that's Bluffton Bridge,
Oh,
though, that we had in the shop. We can look into that and
I
get that
thought we
off
had
of
talked
there.
about
I
it,
thought
we
it
got it
was.
off the top
I
of
thought
Oh,
it.
we
it
could,
was.
yeah.
I think it was,
We could.
if I remember.
Yeah, those seem to disappear if you don't get them off of it.
Amazing.
Souvenirs. Souvenirs.
Over on eBay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Isaac.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac.
Back on time.
We're almost back on time. Next on the agenda, 10 o'clock, John Beard, present letter from concerned citizens. What do you have, John?
This first letter is a product of multiple authors with input from lots of their friends and neighbors.
comments from me.
Thank you, Chuck.
Some recent decision-making by the Winneshiek County Board of Supervisors has been characterized by serious lapses in both state protocol and governing principles. Agendas have not always provided fair notice to the public of important matters under active consideration by the board. Board actions have sometimes been made abruptly, inviting the impression that the underlying decisions were made in advance of the board meeting, out of public view. Agenda items appear to take some board members by surprise, suggesting that the process of setting the agenda does not involve the full board. These lapses have been of considerable public concern, as has been reflected in greater attendance at recent meetings. We believe the following changes in the conduct of board meetings would serve to improve board decision-making and encourage public confidence in the board's actions. The full board should be involved in establishing each meeting's agenda. Each board member's wishes cannot always be accommodated when there is disagreement over whether to include a particular agenda item. Of course, but each member's input should be sought before an agenda is published. This will permit more effective meeting preparation by all board members and the public. In addition, participation by all board members in setting the agenda should help avoid situations in which agendas do not adequately notify the public of the scope and nature of board actions under consideration. Board members should commit to a full public hearing of the rationale for each significant board decision in public and at properly noticed board meeting. Section 21.1 of Iowa's Open Meetings Law provides. This chapter seeks to assure, through a requirement of open meetings of governmental bodies, that the basis and rationale of governmental decisions, as well as those decisions themselves, are easily accessible to the people. Each board meeting should include at least a brief opportunity for public comment, subject to appropriate time constraints, like the board meetings in most nearby counties and our local Decorah City Council as well. Our board evidently regards this as unnecessary because a member of the public wishing to be heard at one of its meetings may contact the board in advance and be placed on the agenda. While being placed on the agenda in this way does serve to provide notice of what issues will be addressed, it would also be valuable to provide an opportunity each meeting to let members of the public briefly identify matters of interest or concern to them, which might then warrant inclusion on a future agenda. Each board meeting should be recorded on video. I think this is just, here we are recording this, the public can do that. But just as a liability concern for the board, I like Kevin Lee's point that if there's a recording done by the board that goes on YouTube that cannot be edited or bastardized in any way, that's really a backup for what proceeded there. And so anyway, I think that's a safeguard. Many members of the public have work, school, or other commitments that prevent attending meetings on Monday mornings. Online access would permit them to view a meeting as their schedule permits. In addition, a more detailed record would be created of board deliberations on important issues over time, well beyond what meeting minutes provide. Some recent meetings have been video recorded and put online by members of the public, which has demonstrated the value of this practice. But having such recordings available to all should not be a matter of whether particular volunteers happen to be available to perform this service. The board should undertake this responsibility to make its proceedings readily accessible to the public interest. In summary, enacting these items will help serve the public's interest in the long term while strengthening the trust they are due from their elected officials. This ultimately leads to better governing. And now I'm gonna, I gotta say, I just wish this board well. I mean, I invested 8 years of my time on this board and felt like it was the best thing I ever did as a public servant because, you can actually accomplish so much at the local level where sometimes at state and higher levels, it's nothing but a partisan battle. So let me start by saying that I sympathize with the board's present budget difficulties, due entirely to restrictions by our legislature, the same folks who scream the loudest about federal government preempting their own decision-making. You have difficult decisions to make, but I hope you will give strong consideration to the suggestions made by the authors of this letter, previous letter. When I first came on the board, I was fortunate to be acquainted with many of our fine county employees and my colleagues on that board. Because we valued the diversity of each other's abilities, life experiences, and perspectives, we were able to work well together as a team. Emphasis on team. That's what, when government works, it works because it works as a team. With new or more complex issues, we extended that same trust and respect to the public. By asking for their input, we not only arrived at better solutions, but gained trust and understanding. I believe we were able to improve not only day-to-day services to the public, but to build a spirit of cooperation and innovation that went beyond county government. At a time when public cynicism about government is at a disturbingly high level, it is in everyone's interest to model our best behavior and expect it from our elected officials. In conversations with former and present county supervisor colleagues about the actions taken by our present board's majority, I have heard they panicked, didn't do their homework, but the word most commonly used was unprofessional. In sharp contrast to Engineer Bierke's very strong justification for the roadside management program, it's available on the county website, by the way. I recommend everybody read it. The rationale given for their action is mere bumper sticker sloganeering. Spending must be balanced with revenues, of course, but the most important currency in government is the public trust. Thank you.
Next on the agenda at 10:15, Ray Torresdal, budget considerations. Come on up, Ray.
Realize
that's
we were
fine.
so time driven.
Half the time we're behind our schedule, so.
I'm Ray Torresdal. I'm a machinist and a truck driver, so not so good at public speaking, so please bear with me. I grew up on a farm just north of Ashen, have lived in Winneshiek County most of my life. Started R.L. Torresdal Company in 1985 and managed the business until 2021 when I turned it over to a longtime employee. I was honored when asked to be on the Conservation Board many years ago, and it is still one of the most rewarding parts of my experience outside my family and business. I am speaking on behalf of former chairs of Winneshiek County Conservation Board, Nancy Bolson, Meg Storkamp, and myself. We are writing to you in support of the Winneshiek County Conservation Board and its employees. We have had the opportunity to work with Barb Schroeder, the director, as she wisely uses her budget money for programs that benefit the entire county. We have very carefully used county and other available funds to leverage and receive very competitive grants. Over the past 10 years, we, the Conservation Board, have brought in an equivalent of over $5 million in grants. That's over $7 million in grants in the 16 and a half years that Barb has been our director. These grants are and have been earmarked for county conservation purposes, such as trail and park development. Grant money cannot be used to supplant budget money. To the contrary, most grants require local matching money for the applications to be considered. Our Conservation Board is well respected by conservation boards throughout the state for what it has accomplished in Winneshiek County. Nancy, Meg, and myself have many combined years serving on this board, and for a variety of reasons. Some of us have roots reaching back as far as 1849 in this county and grew up on local farms. Some of us hunt and fish, others enjoy walking and biking the trails, kayaking the streams and rivers. We all share a common bond in our love of nature and making the Winneshiek County Parks and Reserves available for all to enjoy. We have been blessed with board members from many walks of life who have turned into lifelong friends as we work together to showcase and protect our beautiful and unique home that we call Winneshiek County. One former board member's name immediately springs to mind, Dave Ludwig, a farmer from the Spillville area. Name sound familiar? Think Ludwig Prairie, and a huge advocate for Bohemian Creek, a less well-known trout stream in southwest Winneshiek County. In my time on the board and since, a veterinarian, educators, and business owners have worked together to ensure the best use of resources. During the pandemic, what some have perceived as a want proved to be a need as indoor spaces shut down and residents and visitors alike search for places to recreate and exercise outdoors. One of the less recognized benefits of our trail system is the improved quality of life it affords our community as people utilize the trails, parks, and recreation areas for both their physical and mental health and well-being. I think we all recognize that the vitality of a community comes from its residents. In our case, because of the recognized quality of life in Winneshiek County, we have many who want to live in our communities. Given what property values have been recently, I have to think that quality of life metrics are drawing people to our communities. This begs the question, how many of the folks moving into our communities first discovered the amenities developed and supported by the Conservation Board and others as tourists? Statistics show $39.6 million in 2021 visitor spending in Winneshiek County. $39.6 million. Our bicycle trails generated almost $5.5 million in spending by non-local visitors in 1 year. Trout fishing in the driftless area is also a large contributor to our local economies and a huge draw for tourists. DNR surveys of fishing trips show 174,000 annual trips to streams and rivers in Winneshiek County, which turns into an average influx of tourist monies of $8.1 billion per year. So let's turn to something that many of us have dealt with, return on investment, commonly abbreviated as ROI. As a longtime machine shop owner, when I went to the bank for funding for a new machine, one of the questions was always, how long will this machine take to pay for itself? ROI. When we look at funding for Winneshiek County Conservation, perhaps we should look at the return on investment here as well. Over the last 10 years, the Conservation Board, primarily through the hard work of our director, has been awarded $5,181,990 in grant funds. These grant funds were and are earmarked for things like trail and park development. These grant funds are not available to the road department, and with one exception, wouldn't gravel a single mile of road or fix a bridge railing on a county road. During the last 10 years, these grants equal 81% of the county's investment in county conservation. Then we should look at the additional return on the county's investment in the County Conservation Board. $5.5 million per year in non-local spending by tourists utilizing our trail system. With just 1 year's non-local influx of dollars, that's tourist dollars, we have over $5.5 million generated by our multi-use trails, in addition to the over $8 million of fishing revenue. For an annual investment of less than $850,000 that is spent on many things, not just trails, a return on investment of turns out to be over $13 million. These tourist dollars don't include the dollars, oh, I'm sorry, they do. I got information this morning. So I have got some of the fishing and kayaking monies included in that $13 million. This money is spent in our local businesses, generating sales tax revenues, meals, gas, overnight accommodations, etc. How many of us will ever see that kind of return on an investment that we make? Let's face it, return on investment is not just about monetary gain. We have quality of life gains as well. Our Conservation Board staff is busy educating all who are interested in learning about our great outdoors. There are regular programs that Larry Reese provides in nursing homes throughout the county. As our population has moved to town, far fewer children have the opportunity to grow up on a farm and see nature firsthand. There are many ongoing school programs, some of which took place even throughout the pandemic, and multiple learning opportunities for people of all ages. There are programs to help you learn to build bird boxes, learn to kayak or canoe, tie flies for fly fishing, nature walks during all seasons, and many more. Additionally, Conservation Board employees catalog and monitor precious county resources, write plans, and implement forest and prairie management techniques and practices. Staff continuously monitors to control invasive species. A large amount of time and resources are allocated to maintaining aging infrastructure while continually making improvement to parks and trails. All these efforts are part of implementing long-range plans and project development. While we all recognize that the county budget must be carefully managed, it is irresponsible, penny-wise and pound-foolish, to cut funding for a program that brings in millions of dollars annually and improves the quality of life for our citizens. Winneshiek County Conservation is providing a huge return on your investment, both monetarily and in ways that are more difficult to quantify. As fiscal conservatives concerned with the county's investment, we are requesting that the Winneshiek County Supervisors work to avoid the net loss of income to our county and its citizens by requiring the County Conservation Board to unfairly shoulder more than its share of funding cuts this year and in the coming years. Sincerely, Nancy Bolson, Meg Storkamp, and myself, Ray Torresdal.
Very well done, Ray.
Thank you.
Don't sell yourself short on the public speaking.
Well, it's 10:30. Next on the agenda is the budget work session. First of all, we consider the supervisor's salaries.
Me to put this on there, but that's completely up to you guys. You have more time than usual. You can take an action to lower your own compensation without affecting the other elected officials up until 30 days before the budget hearing. since our budget hearing date is moved back, you wouldn't have to decide this today, but in the next couple of weeks, you would have to, if you decide to do that.
When is the budget
It is the last Monday in April, which is the 24th, is that what it says?
Do we just want to hold off and discuss this one, and we discuss the rest of the compensation board?
Might as well just do that.
Okay.
And do it all at the
I
same
just thought
time.
the
all in one
interest in
shot.
budget cuts, we just.
The other compensation board recommendations you'll consider after the budget hearing on April 24th.
Okay, we'll let hold
And so if you want to do lower years without having any effect on the rest of them, you have to do that up to 30 days ahead of time.
I just thought
If
the
you're gonna leave
assessors-
yours in and adjust them at the same amount as anyone else, other adjustments you might make, then that, you can wait and do that then, but.
With the recommendation for elected officials, if you have to do them all the same percentage?
Except your own.
Except ours, yeah.
on. Now, they're changing some of that, trying to change some of it. doesn't it?
There's several bills in the legislature that would affect the compensation board.
Mhm.
Some that, there was one that got rid of it completely, some that require other justifications, and some that change how you, one of them, you can't change them once they recommend them, and one of them you get freedom to change them completely, and there's one of each, and so I don't have any idea how that bill, those bills will end up if they get anywhere. So, because it's the whole slew of things.
Would that affect this year?
No.
So the reason I put this on the agenda this time is because we're talking about budget cuts from various departments and trying to be fiscally responsible. So I thought we could put a good faith effort forward as a group to freeze our income, our salaries. I think we're pretty well paid for part-time jobs. So that's why we put it on here today, just to decide our own now and make a statement now that we're willing to freeze our own.
How does everyone else feel?
Well, I guess if you look on the average, you're gonna get so upside down in that, because we haven't taken one for how many years. And if you look at the county, the state average, just like everybody else, you said, you gotta, to attract good people to run for the board, you gotta have something there, you know. I mean, I'm just going off of what you keep saying, you gotta have, to get good people here, you gotta
Well, we're all
compensate.
elected, so it won't affect who supervisors are, because we're an elected office. So it won't affect who we get to run for supervisor, depending on what we're paid.
It ultimately could.
Yes, I mean, it makes a big difference, just, especially like Dan's a businessman, and he's taken away from his business to be here. And yeah, it's, that's his choice, but still, I mean, to get good, you want good people sitting here that make sound decisions, you gotta compensate them for doing it too.
What's the history over the last 4, 8, 6, 10 years, Ben?
For the Board of Supervisors, I think, I would guess at least half of the last 10 years, they've declined to take a raise,
Last
maybe even
two,
more.
Yeah.
But since these guys have been here, it's been both years. So,
The compensation board, when you look at the state averages, it's not comparing. A lot of the boards are 3 members and some are 5.
Five.
It's just like,
yeah, they can choose how they want to do that. I don't know how
so what I'm
the
saying, with the average
compensation.
is,
Yeah.
it's looking at a lot of boards that are 3, majority of 3, the other 5. Which makes a difference.
I think for a part-time job with our benefits package added to it, I think that, in this budget cutting year, I think it'd be a good faith effort for the 5 of us to do our part.
And in case you want to know the amount that it works out to be, it's about 3,000 per supervisor. So with the additional, the FICA and HIPERS, it's $17,525 for
That was at what percent?
That was at 8 point some percent.
8.54%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm no way in favor of that percentage.
You know, that ain't gonna happen.
So we can talk about it at a future meeting, but that's why I put it on the
Yeah.
agenda for today.
If,
What was that number again? You got it handy?
The total cost is $17,525 for the raises and FICA and NIPERS for all five.
that's at 8.7.
8.54%, yep.
And I would imagine they have that at 8.54 since we haven't taken any raises for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That was their way of trying, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Well, but there's a lot of other rates that are far greater than that percentage.
Yeah, there's some there.
Okay.
There's some that are like 27%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the average, what do we just determine as the average wage increase we're giving the non-elected, non-union employees?
It's between 2.5 and 5. I haven't calculated the exact average, but I would, if I'm gonna guess, it's 3.5 to 4.
But that's good for compensating. You need some major adjustments.
Yes, there are people who are getting, on the non-union, non-elected, there's, I think the highest one is in that 20% range, 18 to 20%, and then there are people who are getting frozen because of the new salary study, so the whole range there.
Yeah, the matrix is got the biggest swings.
Yeah.
What do we have for an increase on our union contract for the unionized employees?
What's in your first and now the second run is 3%. You're required to give at least 2.5, because that's what you negotiated last year.
And that's for
Yep, the current budget and next year's budget, you're at 2.5.
2.5 for the next, this year and next year.
Should we think we put it up to 3 because that's kind of what.
Closer to the
3.5 was the average on the new matrix.
Because
plus they get the cost of living.
And that's included.
No, that's included, calculated.
The union doesn't.
the
Yeah.
union doesn't.
That's included on there.
No, but
The matrix, well, yeah, some of them.
they're gonna get the COLA.
That's the 2.5 to 5 includes COLA.
Cool.
So the 3 to 3.5 includes that.
All right, well, we're gonna wait on that. The second run, the cuts by departments.
I have a few extra copies of the second run I will put here. Since the first run, which we looked at last week, I added the 5,000 for the Winneshiek County Development and Tourism that you asked to put them back in, that you had cut out earlier. And I sent out the list of the cuts that the departments provided that are included in here. And so the first page, I did 2 again, so 2A and 2B. The only difference between the two is the levy rate. So they include the same set of expenses in there. Now, one other expense that that Lynn helped remind me of that isn't included in here is we may need to, should include a little extra money for unemployment if we're planning to cut people. But we have 5,000 in there annually, but we may need more than that.
So run 2A is the exact same levy rate that we've had.
Same total levy rate that you've had, yes. It's 10 cents off of the supplemental and 10 cents on to the general.
And then run 2B is the one where I added,
Asked to have 5 cents more.
that gets us at
4.38.
24.38%.
Yep.
Do we have included at all then from the comp board, the elected raises?
Those are all included in here.
To the max.
Yeah,
At the max.
at the amount they were recommended.
So you sent out those department cut ideas
Do you want me to
after last
read?
Monday?
We review those.
Public.
But do you want all of them, or just the ones since last Monday, or what do you want me to go through?
Well, the question was going to be, do all of them count in here, or
Yes.
were they in the one last week, the ones we had
The-
before
the-
March 6th?
The
Or
ones
before
before
February
were in last week's
Okay.
also. So it was the county attorney, you had cut 64.5 to offset the cost of the new employee. It was now a county employee, so that was a net zero within a couple $100, so that worked out fairly well. Public health, when she was here, she offered, she's been having trouble replacing that fifth nurse, instead of just take the fifth nurse out of her budget, so she went down to 4 nurses. And so that was about 80,000 with the FICA, IFRS, and insurance along with that salary. You asked the sheriff to cut 50,000 to help offset the new deputy, and you asked recycling, who's had a vacancy of an employee since last July, not to include it, to be rehired, and they hadn't rehired it yet. And he had initially requested that it stay in there in case they want to, and you had them cut that out. So that was about 60,000. So that was included in the first run. Since then, recycling offered 72,000 additional cuts. The big chunk of that was 45,000 for the forklift. So he just wants you to know he's okay with not putting it in this budget, but it's almost for sure gonna have to go into
Next
a year
year's.
from now. Because the forklift they have, it needs to be replaced. IT took out 25,000 in expenses, mostly revolving around reusing some of the equipment rather than buying new equipment. So you'd have to get the details of the technical details of that, but it had to do with some of the servers could be reused as the backup servers rather than buying new ones. So GIS, he offered 15,000 there, basically from the miscellaneous line that didn't have anything specific that he was looking at. A drone has been mentioned, but maybe that isn't something we'll look at this year. I cut to 2,500 just because I figured it was my duty to try to cut something. I was just some basic, basic expenses. I don't have much in there to cut. So, and then conservation took out 1 employee in the benefits, the FICA, IFRS, and insurance for that employee out of their maintenance line. That was 77,811. So you'd asked for 80, and that was what it worked out to be. And I said I think that the idea was that it was the equivalent of an employee if it wasn't an employee.
So even with all those, we're still not getting to the.
You're not quite to 25%.
We're not getting. What if we would add the 5 cents to tax levy, it gets us to 24.38%.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
That is a huge increase from where we were at 19.
That's 5% increase. So it gets us in a pretty comfortable
Well, not safe
situation.
a range, yes.
Well, for the public side, that's their reserve balance at the end of the year, percentage-wise. But the 25.
They recommend you,
We're talking about
they recommend you be
25%.
they have 25% reserve balance.
And I don't think 24.38 isn't a dangerous amount. I mean, that isn't a,
No, it's safe.
I wouldn't go under 20 for sure.
No.
And so,
I would venture to guess 22 to 23 would also be safe for our county. I personally, with the amount of work that conservation has to do and what we talked about in the parks and all the amenities, the projects they've got going, I really hate to see them lose an employee.
For the benefit of the public, the reserve fund is, you pay your tax bill in.
yeah, so the idea is, yeah, so our fiscal year starts July 1st. First installment of property taxes is due September 30th. So unless a bunch of people pay early, which some people do, but a lot of people wait till the end, we gotta make it 3 months of the year before we have our major influx of income, so that's 25% of the year. So that's why the recommendation from accounting firms and so on is always to have a 25% carryover.
And if we don't, the bills don't get paid.
That's right.
And holding paychecks is not a.
No, that's not,
Not an option.
no.
No. So I'd say the second, that's two B,
I don't,
Be-
you know,
two B.
the tax levy rate's been set right there for 4 years. So I don't believe a 5-cent increase is too much to ask
Yeah,
from the
no.
taxpayers. And
Like I said, you guys should have just a titch every year maybe to try and build, you know.
I'd be comfortable with running 2B.
I would too.
So
Gets us within 0.5% or 0.6% where we wanna be.
But we all have to understand that some of this money is probably gonna have to be put back into the budget next year.
Yeah.
May have to be raised again.
So,
Yeah, cause we ain't gonna have that wage carryover like we did
Yep.
from last year. We paid that extra, was it
The 27th,
5, 6,
yeah, the 27th
every
payroll.
6th, 7th year, you gotta pay that, so that was already in there.
That helps.
So that covered our raise. So if you give a raise next year, decide that's gonna be that much
On top.
on top of this year. Cause we
If
still
you-
got the towers,
and we still have the
the
900,000.
900,000 in towers for
2 more years.
2 more
after
years.
this.
2 more years.
If you went to 448, just throwing this out as an option, you would get it to almost right at 25%. That would be 5 more cents, so it'd be 10 cents total.
raising it 1.
I
With
did
that
do a,
position,
I
is
did
that
do a
for next
2C, but that, if I
That
did a
would be
2C,
the-
that would have been my third
Your
one,
2C.
would have been to do 5 more cents, and get you at, would have put your ending balance right around 25%, and would have a 10-cent increase in property tax rather than 5.
also, if the state goes through with their wishes, we're gonna be restricted on the amount we
Yeah.
can raise the levy if we, next
Right,
year if we don't.
next year.
If
So
we're
there
gonna do
might
that
be,
this year,
might be some benefit to doing it
Doing
this
that.
year, because you may not be able to do it next year.
I think we should,
I mean,
to protect ourselves for next
because
year.
they're also,
That'd be only going to 8.74 then, wouldn't it?
No, they're-
8.6.
because you know, you're looking at,
It'd be 8.74 or something.
Maybe it is 7.4.
because
It's
there's,
6.4, 8.64 right now, we'd be going to 8.74.
Because the,
That'd be right.
next year, we're gonna probably have,
It'd be roughly $130,000.
next year, public health is
8.7.
gonna wanna have their position back, eventually.
Because then, 1% is roughly, what, 1.34 million, so it'd be,
5 cents is about 70,000, which gets you right around that 25%.
1% would be for, yeah, I'd say probably do that, raise it a tenth, that would get us where you wanna be.
4.48 then?
4.48 in the general basic fund
Yeah,
for the third run.
be raising the levy 1/10.
Because if we have.
1/10% raising the levy.
Recycling's gonna want that back.
Recycling's gonna want it, public health is gonna want,
Possibly.
possibly,
I think I'm gonna
I
also,
think that's
for next week, for the 3, I'm gonna have another 5,000 in unemployment, if we're, just so that we're covered if we end up paying unemployment. Is that okay too then? That won't.
And then still run it with the
4.48, yeah, 5,000 probably won't affect it.
Effective.
No, it shouldn't.
So going back to what we heard from Mr. Torresdal a minute ago, our return on investment in conservation is huge. I'm still coming back to why we're asking that department to give up so much when they're bringing in so much to the county.
Well, we had 2 other people scratched employees too. public health. Recycling, he gave up 120,000. I mean, it's,
Well, they realized they could do the work down a person out there.
yeah,
We knew that they could do that.
so. It's,
Conservation, to lose a person in conservation is a big blow to what they can get done during the year. Especially
this is
maybe
what-
through October.
let's, okay with where we're at, I guess, for this year.
What's that?
I guess I'm okay with where we're at for this year.
The problem is, if you're letting somebody go, then you have to find, if you say, oh, add it back in next year, you're gonna have to come up with a new employee.
We're gonna lose services,
You're gonna lose.
is what we're gonna look at here. We didn't lose services at recycling down one.
Well,
I know Krista didn't fill her nursing positions because she said we're getting it done without that nurse. It's not because they're giving it up, it's just so they can cover what they needed because of the way it's changed. If we lose a person in conservation, we are choosing to lose extra services there that that person
Well-
was able to do.
Up until 2 years ago, they didn't have that person.
They didn't have the
Nothing's
scope of
changed.
projects either.
I believe they were there.
And we're asking them to do some
The bike
pretty
trails
major
are there.
changes to the campgrounds
The
right
bike
now.
trail was there, the campgrounds were there. Nothing changed.
Is Barb here? Do you want to speak to that question? I would like to know more. So what does it mean if you're down a person, as far as services and work goes?
Well, when we requested that person a year and a half ago, it was with the idea that we are going to be starting all these trail projects on Dry Run, that staff's going to be working on that, so we need the extra person to do, work with contractors, trail route and things like that. And then the rest of the staff continue doing what they normally do. And once you implement and start these contracts, it's more work on my end, and I'm already buried in work. So I needed extra help that way also.
But up until this point, for a year and a half, we haven't done anything with those other programs because they've all been on hold. So we've had a full-time employee for a year and a half that really hasn't been getting utilized.
Yes, they have. So they've been helping me write the grants. We're looking to help us bring in more money. We needed national designation for the trails. They've been doing the background work and researching and filling out forms. That person hasn't been sitting and twiddling their thumbs. I have kept them busy full-time and they have been doing a lot of maintenance. We didn't expect the Emerald Ash Borer to be as devastating in our park, so they've picked up some of that maintenance work also that we just had not anticipated. All these hazard trees in the campgrounds right now.
Are we gonna start trails again this year?
I'm waiting for a big grant. I can't start any contracts, because once I start that contract, then I can't use any of that for matching. And I've been waiting for them to announce since the end of December. 2 or 3 weeks ago, they said they were still scoring grants. They had such an inundation of applications that they didn't have a timeline in when they would be making their announcement. So, but we are still in the running for that. So, we're kind of on hold just so we don't endanger our matching funds. So.
Did they give you any indication of when they may
No,
give you some kind of knowledge?
no.
Maybe.
All she said was they were still scoring grant applications. But this is a statewide grant, so, I mean, for the application, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know conservation, we're looking at over 3 million. Our request was over 9, but we're a partnership with the city of Decorah, Secondary Roads, Clayton and Fayette County Conservation Boards, and the City of Lowline Park and Rec. So it's a multi-partner grant application. It's over 21 million in projects that we submitted, so.
Well, again, I'm looking at this from a business standpoint and going back to the return on investment that we just heard about. It does not make sense to me to cut this program when it's bringing in this much to the county. And they've got their work cut out for them. I know their full-time employees are working full-time. If we don't take our raise, that's 17,000 off the top of that, which brings it down to 54. Is the difference we're looking at right now? So, I mean, this is a big deal. To cut a program that's bringing in millions of dollars to this county every year, consistently. It's a successful program and a great team of people out there.
I have nothing against the conservation department, and I agree to do what they do, but it just basically comes down to numbers. We have to make these numbers work. And with that one full-time employee, makes the numbers work a lot easier.
Well, we could have agreed to run number 2B and still been okay at the 24.38%, and we're choosing to go to 448.
The only reasoning is because of the proposed bill. But we don't have that number up to that level.
I think that puts us in a better position to not have to do all of this.
So we would still,
Prudence, yes.
we still run at 4.8. But
What,
our
1.48?
reserve balance would be a certain percentage down, but we still maintain the position that potentially brings in more money.
We're not cutting off a limb to save ourselves. This is a big deal for conservation.
I'm okay with the way we have
It
it
brings
planned.
money
I
into the
just
county. They're doing their job.
said I'm not against it either, but just wait.
What was that?
I'm not against conservation either, but just the way everybody else has gotten some, so everybody can contribute to the, for once, I guess.
Well, what if
That's what.
could we go back to other departments and ask for that a little bit more?
They already did.
That's
They
what
already
Well,
did.
It said we could ask them. I mean, law enforcement pay back 50. Do they have a little bit more they can?
Law enforcement
approve?
has guidelines they have to follow from the state and the federal, and I don't see where there's any room there. We cannot take and risk public safety
There's room.
to ask for, if he returns, if we have any kind of an issue, there is no control on his part, Shirley, and you know that.
There is control on his part.
Not on emergencies and things that come up.
No
Murder
control on that.
trials,
There's
murder
control on
trials,
his
and,
budget,
and,
no.
and all these other crimes that he has to deal with. We don't have a lot of, he has given us as much leeway as he can give us.
Ben,
We can have him come back here and tell us, his opinion again, if you like, Shirley.
I talk to him all the time, it's fine. What information do you have, another way to skin this cat without hurting conservation that deeply? Because they need everybody they've got right now to get the job done with the projects they're running.
I sent out the message to all the departments, and the responses that were voluntary were the ones I included, so I'm not gonna go and say, well, this department you should cut, or this one you should cut, because then I'm getting in the middle of the politics of it. Yeah, that's not where I want to be, so I'm not gonna.
No, nope. I'd do the 2C.
Well, I'd like all the information we can get before we make these big decisions for the community.
Well, we've been reviewing the budgets for quite a while, here, Shirley.
And we have to have it done today.
I can give you a
$3.
2C for next Monday, or a 3, excuse me, for next Monday, but then that's also going to include a notice to publish the max levy.
Or we can agree today to just go with the 2C that is not in front of us.
In front of us,
with a
Yeah,
448.
so 448, that's what I'm planning to put in the third run, and add 5,000 for unemployment, and unless you tell me other changes, that's what I'll bring next week,
That's what I'm-
with a public hearing notice.
That's where I'm at.
Are we doing a motion on that, or just?
I don't think you need a motion, you just, I'm gonna bring it next week, and you're gonna make a motion then.
I'm okay with that.
And if you want to make any motions to do it differently, I mean, take, three of you tell me to do it one way, that's what I'm gonna do, so.
Sounds like you have that.
Is that where you're at, Steve?
Yeah, I think if we don't leave Ben in a prudent position and we default come August through September, that is a bad scenario.
What are we sitting at for our balance this current year? For where we're at?
You were actually already planning, even increasing it 10 cents, and with these cuts, you're already deficit spending some. So you're already spending more than you're taking in, because we're spending down our balance just
Yeah.
to maintain 25%. So, it's, it may accumulate worse later, but I think 10 cents gets you a lot better off than if you didn't raise it at all.
No, like previous, we always been right at 25%.
That's what we target. But then when the end of the year comes and departments don't spend all of their money, then it gives us some extra. But then we do budget amendments, which spends down that extra, so it kind of depends on where we end
It's
up.
always kind of moving.
Yeah,
Washes.
Are we
But
still,
we're already doing a little budget cutting here now. I mean,
and we're
amendments.
going negative, from what I read on the insurance reserve report, we're going negative every month.
I'll give you some good news on the insurance. Brian did have some additional quotes. It's very likely that we can get by with less than the 7%, which is currently budgeted. That's in the supplemental fund though, so it doesn't really help your general fund balance, but he doesn't have exact numbers yet. We're optimistically hoping we can stay at the same, we're gonna switch to a different plan, but it'll stay the same deductibles and cost to employees, and we won't have to raise our rates. That's what we're looking at right
But we're
now.
still dropping 40,000 a month out of our
Right.
insurance reserve.
Right.
We can't afford to
40,000
get
a
that.
month.
Right, so we need to get that, we need to offset that by putting more into that account. That last year, we intentionally did that. We did not charge all of the rate to the budget, all the increase to the budget, because our reserve had gotten so high. And so we intentionally shorted it some to spend it down some, but now we've got it down to where it's getting bottom of what I feel comfortable. So we need to, that needs to be sitting in the 750 to 800,000 mark to cover us for a worst case scenario.
And we're down at about 600
700
now, and we got.
Yeah, and we were over 1 million
Yeah.
last year
And
this
we still
time.
got-
Yeah.
We still got
For 2
four
months.
more months,
Yeah.
another 160,000,
Yeah.
perhaps 165,000 has to come out of that fund also.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be,
Yeah, so when we actually get our final rates, I still think we're gonna be able to get by for less than the 7%, which is the current increase that he has with our current group. And because of the way Wellmark's rules are, you can't go from one trust pool to another trust pool. So you will what we're looking at right now is a Wellmark standalone, where we're not with other counties, we're just on our own. But we've had good claim history for the last few years, so we're scoring quite well going to a Wellmark standalone program. And plus, that'll then make us available to shop around to all the trusts next year.
but we're
So
still,
you're not
we're,
stuck with it.
Yeah,
but we're still 250,000 plus short on our reserves in that health pool.
Yeah, and we will look at that, yeah.
Yeah. That's not pretty.
No, it's
No.
correctable though.
Yeah.
But the money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, the money's gonna come.
I don't, it's not going to, I don't, your 7% that you have budgeted is the worst case scenario.
Right.
We're gonna get by for less than that, I'm hoping, but
So the difference between there, we can put into the,
that will not help you at all in your general fund, because that's in the supplemental, so
Yeah.
don't even think about that.
Yeah.
easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
Any other budget considerations? Okay, listen. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.